Wouldn't it be nice to have several thought leaders in your industry know and love your brand? Start a podcast. Invite your industry's thought leaders to be guests on your show, and start reaping the benefits of having a network full of industry influencers. Learn more at sweetfishmedia.com.
You're listening to the B2B Growth Show, a podcast dedicated to helping B2B executives achieve explosive growth. Whether you're looking for techniques and strategies or tools and resources, you've come to the right place. I'm Jonathan Green.
And I'm James Carberry.
Let's get into the show.
Welcome back to the B2B Growth Show. We are here today with Thad Kahlow. He is the CEO of BusinessOnLine. Thad, how you doing today?
Doing fantastic. Thanks for having me, James.
I'm really excited to chat with you today, Thad. We're going to be talking about revenue marketing, and really we're going to be talking about 3 shifts that marketers need to be thinking about. If they haven't already made those shifts, they need to start. But before we dive in too deep on what those 3 shifts are, I'd love for you to just give a little bit of context to our listeners. What is BusinessOnLine about, and what are you and your team up to over there?
Yeah, sure. And I'm super excited to talk about the topic of revenue marketing. It's near and dear to my heart. But real quick, we are BusinessOnLine. We are a performance-driven B2B digital marketing agency, helping our clients, mid-market enterprise, to drive demand and ultimately measure their impact to pipeline and revenue or business impact, if you will. So I'm excited to be here today, James.
I love it. So Thad, at a high level, and before we get into these 3 shifts, it's really kind of the overarching theme based on what we talked about right before hitting record was making this shift to marketing that actually makes an impact. So can you just talk a little bit conceptually about how you think about this before we dive into those 3 specific shifts?
Yeah, and I think this is super important. And so we're all aligned around, where we're trying to drive, the business, if you will. And I think traditionally most B2B marketers have been in a support role, right? They support sales to create collateral so the sales team can close the business. They support products so they can, build out the marketing material to help espouse the values and virtues of the technology or the services they're delivering. And frankly, they support, finance to a degree, right? As the finance team is helping to understand how they're driving margin through all these areas of the business. And each one of those functions, sales, product, and finance, has a direct impact on business, and therefore their respect and budgets, continue to grow within the B2B world, if you will. But with this massive tectonic shift in the B2B buyer's journey, marketing has never been more important. The big issue and the big challenge is the fact that we can't prove our value to the business. And the good news is, with some changes in our behavior and approach, we can actually right now, here today, begin to make that shift and show marketing's impact to pipeline and frankly, all the way through to close one business. And that is the big opportunity on the table today.
I love it. And so this first shift that we're going to talk about, that is a shift from technology to technologists. Can you unpack what that means for us?
Sure. I think if you look at the past 3 to 5 years, a lot of money has been spent on marketing technology, right? We're spending money on our analytics platforms and BI tools. We're spending money on our marketing automation platforms like Eloqua, Marketo, or HubSpot. And we're spending some big dollars in CRM, right? Getting the entire organization to launch and adopt things like Salesforce or Microsoft Dynamics. And on top of that, we're spending a lot of money in ad tech, right? As much as we are shifting some of our traditional media spends from print and trade shows to the digital world, we're going to the LinkedIns of the world, which is, by the way, one of the largest untapped advertising sources from B2B perspective. We can talk about that in a moment. To the Facebooks, to the Googles of the world. But the challenge is we spent all these dollars on all of this ad tech and this marketing technology, but we haven't been able to tap into the true promise, the true value of this technology. And I think the biggest fundamental shift I see that needs to happen in the marketplace today is understanding the stewards or the technologists who are able to crack open, your analytics technology, your marketing automation technology, and your CRM, and frankly, plumb them all together so they can have a better understanding of the very first advertisement that you launched in market all the way through to sale. And I don't care if that happens over a 16-month or 36-month process with 3 decision makers or 13 decision makers. If you do that well, and you have folks who are good at that, and I can tell you what that looks like in a second, they can help to demystify this notion of attribution and help to paint the picture in terms of how marketing is impacting pipeline, qualified pipeline, and how that's pulled through all the way to close won opportunities.
And so going back to what, you had just alluded to, how do you go about finding somebody like that, Thad?
Yeah, it's a hot market for anyone that has three types of skill sets we think about that are technologists in the data plumbing world, if you will. Number one are folks who are good, like they're data developers, folks who are good with structured and unstructured data. Number two, they're marketing technologists. They're native Salesforce administration users. They're Marketo certified, Eloqua certified, and last but not least, they're good with math and statistics. And so it's usually what we find is those three types of skill sets in individuals. There's very few folks that are good at all three. So that's the first thing. A lot of us are hunting for unicorns. We need to stop the hunting for unicorns and understand that you're going to need folks with different diverse skill sets that can bring together, frankly, a team that is competent to help you, drive impact to revenue. And then from there, you've got to have a value proposition that resonates with them. And frankly, at the end of the day, you have to be an organization, in my opinion, to attract the right talent, to attract good talent that believes in making data-driven decisions. I don't think anyone worth their salt is going to step into a large organization that is, the GEs or Honeywells of the world, or all the way down to a startup where the organization itself doesn't believe in making data-driven decisions because they know ultimately their function within the organization is powerful, is important because they're supporting that ethos, if you will. So that's another critical piece. And then get ready to pay some dollars because every year they become more expensive and are harder to find.
Got it. Okay. So this next shift that we're going to talk about, Thad, is a shift to meaningful metrics. What do you mean when you say that?
Yeah, and I think this is another piece that is missed as well. We talk about measurement, we talk about making data-driven decisions, but most of us, especially in the B2B world, the overwhelming majority, I think it's over 70 or 80% was a stat that I pulled from Gartner recently, that are making decisions based on what I call vanity metrics, which are really metrics that while we want to see are heading in the right direction, like traffic, click-through rate, cost per impression, even cost per lead, aren't necessarily valuable to anyone up the food chain. So while we need to know these as stewards of the marketing function, if you will, and we need to know that we're building momentum in the right direction and we're impacting these metrics, so they should be measured. Ultimately, the focus of the organization when we want to actually grow respect and budget and resources, which is the right thing to be doing because we have such a greater impact on opportunities for new revenue and retention, needs to be around what the business cares about, which is pipeline generation and sales. And so as we move from vanity metrics to value-based metrics like cost per marketing qualified lead, cost per sales accepted lead, cost per closed won, and understanding marketing's engagement, right, their level of delivery in those opportunities is critical. And if we can find that out, and if we can demystify that at the individual customer level, right, at an account level, and understand that the roles that surface within that account, we can then aggregate that over multiple accounts and get to some statistically relevant insights that help us drive more effective marketing. But the big challenge is most of us are not able to effectively measure value-based metrics like cost per qualified lead or cost per closed won.
And is that because they don't have the technologists in place that need to be there to be able to figure that out?
I think that's fundamentally it. Almost the majority of the mid-market enterprise clients we work with all have a technology stack, and they all, are beginning to dabble into predictive analytics, which can be incredibly powerful. They're all dabbling in ABM right now, and they're beginning to invest more in platforms around ABM and media around ABM. But at the end of the day, the biggest fundamental myth I believe the majority of those marketers out there are missing is the fact that they haven't plumbed their systems together. They haven't done the hard work in scrubbing and cleansing and correlating and connecting that data. So at the end of the day, they can produce accurate reports on demand, and they can begin to ask what I call n-dimensional questions of that data. Within this campaign, over this time frame, with this piece of content, and with this type of role we're going after, what happened and why? And what happened and what can happen next? So that's where the true power of data-driven decisions is locked up within most organizations. They're reporting at a Google Analytics, maybe they're pulling in a BI tool, but it's at a very surface and vanity level perspective. We need to drill deeper into this data that's connected so we can ask really good business questions and frankly, get back to showing the value that marketing is producing to the organization.
I love it. It makes perfect sense. This last shift, Thad, that we're going to talk about, and I think you alluded to it just now, but it's a shift to meaningful campaigns. Talk to us about this one before I let you go today.
Yeah, I think the last piece here is, a lot of us are focusing on optimizing within a particular channel or launching, branded campaigns in terms of what we want our customers to know about us. Managing paid search, managing paid social, launching a branded campaign for awareness. But I think the real value in the marketing efforts that we would deliver into an organization need to focus on the customer and need to focus on the customer throughout the buying journey. So when we think about this, we think about what we call the 3 C's: the customer, the content, and the connection. Number one, who are the key decision makers and influencers throughout the buyer's journey, right? From the very first ad all the way through the purchase. Number two, what content do they need throughout that buyer's journey? And, early up front, it may be more thought leadership, so you're gaining trust and buy-in. And as you move deeper into the funnel, it's more about reducing risk, right, through case studies and testimonials. And then last but not least, what channels are most effective of getting that experience, that content in front of that customer in the most effective way? But planning throughout the buying journey as it relates to, selling a particular product or service, as it relates to a specific account or, individuals within those accounts needs to be thought all the way through as opposed to just optimizing at a channel level, if that makes any sense.
It absolutely does. If there's somebody listening to this that maybe they want to dig deeper on it with you, or they just want to stay connected with you to see more of the stuff that you're putting out, like there's so much meat here to what you're saying. I definitely want people to stay connected. How do they stay connected with you? And then how do they stay connected with Business Online?
Yeah, absolutely. So you can visit our website at BusinessOL.com, or our sister company, which focuses solely on the plumbing and connection of marketing technology and ad tech to produce meaningful reports and insights, which is DataWeld, DATAWELD.net. You can also follow me on Twitter at @TKahlow, KAHLOW, or you can email me anytime, thad.kahlow@businessol.com, and I'd be happy to answer questions, get your resources, white papers, whatever necessary to make you more effective in your role as a marketer within a B2B organization.
I love it. With that, thank you so much for your time today. This has been incredible, so I really appreciate it.
My pleasure.
There are lots of ways to build a community, and we've chosen to build the B2B growth community through this podcast. But because of the way podcasts work, it's really hard to engage with our listeners. And without engagement, it's tough to build a great community. So here's what we've decided to do. We're organizing small dinners across the country with our listeners and guests. No sales pitches, no agenda, just great conversations with like-minded people. We'll talk business, we'll talk family, we'll talk goals and dreams. We'll build friendships. So if you'd like to be a part of a B2B growth dinner in a city near you, go to b2bgrowthdinners.com. That's b2bgrowthdinners.com. Thank you so much for listening. Until next time.